Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel, Nonstop Talking with your girl here, Vivian Liu. So today I wanted to talk about my reading journey. I feel like on this channel I talk quite a bit about books and reading, and I thought it'd be fun for me to kind of recounter how I became a reader. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the sound of my voice because that's all this video has to offer. I'm pretty sure that I became a reader because of my dad. He used to tell me fairy tales when I was a baby, or so he says, because I have no memory of this. But when I was in elementary school, I took those daily 30-minute reading assignments very seriously. Um, and my dad would just go to like the swap meet and just buy like Babysitter's Club and Sweet Valley High, and if his friends had like older like daughters that like no longer wanted like their like young books, he would just take them and bring them back home, and I would just read them, and I was so into it. And yeah, thinking back, probably like definitely my father and Babysitter's Club was are the reasons why I became a reader. And yeah, I think that's kind of nice. In middle school, a classmate of mine introduced me to manga, and that kind of started a thing. They had it at the public library in my city, but I didn't read. I didn't go to the library to read. No, my mom would drive me and usually a friend to like the nearest Borders. The bookstore was called Borders. I can't believe I said this incorrectly. Like, my mom would drop us off, and my friend and I, we would just be there reading. And like there would be times where like I was doing this like every week or every other week, and we were just reading manga because they're expensive, but you can read them for free. And I just consumed so much manga volumes that time of my life, and it's crazy looking back. I I think my first two manga series ever are definitely, because they also had them at the public library, is Marmalade Boy and Magic Knight Raider. Those are like the two that got me sucked into the world of manga besides that middle school classmate. I feel like I just totally dated myself because those are some old series. I haven't stopped reading manga ever since, and then, you know, obviously manga led to anime, which led to conventions, and now we're here in adulthood, still at it. In high school, everything changed. I got introduced to K-pop, and this and like, you know, obviously K-pop led to K-dramas, and I was already watching Asian dramas before this, but this was like the height, the full bloom of my like Asian drama addict watching career. Can I call it a career? With the amount of hours I was dedicating to it every day, probably. I would like go home after school, after extracurriculars, and like watched 2 to 3 episodes, and I would just like go searching on all these different websites and just watched anything I could get my hands on. It was a crazy time. Like, oh man, I would finish like series, or like, yeah, I would finish a drama in like 2 3 days. It's crazy. Crazy times. I can't do that now anymore. Maybe if I try. But yeah, so all my focus was obviously on like Asian dramas and not stinking at school. That I wasn't really reading as much. And obviously, I feel like high school required reading like kind of sucked the fun out of reading for me. Sorry, classics, you just don't do it for me. So besides like sometimes a fanfic or a translated fic or manga, I wasn't like really reading in high school, and you know what? That happens. Moving on into college, one of my roommates had Netflix. So Netflix and just having like that fun college experience was more important than reading for fun. And truthfully, I think high school kind of sucked the fun out of reading, that I didn't even remember that reading was fun. That's kind of sad. After college, I went to teach English in Japan, and I found myself with a lot of free time. My first year, like teaching in the countryside. So with that free time, like I was just looking around for something to do, and I like pulled up some old like creative writing projects. They got some negative feedback, and because of that, I like kept them locked up. And but I guess because I brought them with me to Japan, they like mean something to me. So I started like just trying to rework them, trying to edit and improve them. And one of the ways I was like, I'm not gonna become a better writer if I like don't read anymore. So I like took my bike to the nearest book off, which is like a secondhand like chain bookstore in Japan. I think, yeah, there's some here in the US as well. But yeah, so I biked there, and especially since I was like in the countryside at that time, the English book selection was like so abysmal. But they had, I think, like some Harry Potter and some Jane Austen, and that's what I picked up. Yes, I know this is going to come to you as a shocker because I am a child of the Harry Potter era. But I didn't read Harry Potter in its entirety until I was an adult. But I did watch the movies as they came out. So I started writing again, and because of that, I started reading again. And in 2015, I read 9 books. And in 2016, I wrote down on my New Year's resolution all the same stuff that I usually write. And I added, like, read more. And I actually read 33 books that year, so that was pretty cool, like a big jump from like 9 to 33. And then I moved to a bigger city. I lived close to Nagoya, and Nagoya has pretty decent bookstores with pretty big English book sections. And that's when I started buying my books and then realizing I could get them a lot cheaper used on Amazon, even with the shipping fee to Japan. And that's what I did instead. So I just started buying more physical books and therefore reading more books. And yeah, that's, I guess, kind of the start of me slowly jumping back into reading. Mm-hmm. In 2017, through looking up reviews online, I discovered book blogs, and because of that, I was like being introduced to Goodreads and BookTube, and so this became like a real like huge game changer in my like reading life. And yeah, 2017 really changed things because I also moved back stateside, and now I had access to bookstores that sold English books predominantly, which was amazing. And a lot of websites, shipped to the US for free, which is also amazing. So I was just able to buy English books more frequently, see books more, and just because of that, my like reading like was able to grow. And that year in 2017, I read 65 books. And that is the same year I like read Cassandra Clare and became Sarah J. Maas. Trash. But I mean, just think about it, right? So 2015, 9, 2016, 33, 2017, 65. So that was like the slow progression. 2018 was also a huge game changer in my reading life. So through BookTube, I discovered audiobooks and then library apps, which completely changed everything because I was listening to books, and sometimes I'd get through so many stories through listening to them. And through library apps, I could easily get manga and graphic novels on my phone and read them. And so in 2018, I like consumed, oh my God, how many was it? Wait a second. I like consumed a whopping 135 stories, including like physical, electronic, audio, and like the different types of illustrated books like manga, graphic novel, art books, and whatnot. And yeah, like, I mean, some people might not consider audiobooks or like things like manga as reading, but Goodreads counts it, so I'm counting it. 135 in 2018. Yeah. 2018 was like a really fun blogging year for me just because I was reading so much. So I was blogging a lot, and at the end of the year, I was able to make like best and worst reads of the year list, and that was actually like really, really fun, being able to look at everything you read for that year and go through it and be like, oh, what is it that I like? Oh, memories. What is it that I hate? Oh, I hate it so much, So that was really fun. And 2018, I also had my first big unhaul. Actually, probably be my second. When I first got back into reading, or like when I first like came back home stateside, I like unhauled a lot of like baby kitty books and whatnot. But no, 2018 was like the year I did my first like big, and I guess big girl unhaul, because I feel like this happens quite a lot. Like you get back into reading, you like see a bunch of recommendations on like book blogs, and especially on BookTube, of hype books and of old like favorites that you realize you missed during this entire time that you weren't reading. So you're like trying to pay catch up, but also trying to read new releases. And then you get introduced to Book Outlet, and you're like, this is so cheap, I need to buy. And you're like buying all these books. And in 2018, because I feel like I had a steady knowledge of what it is that I like to read, what it is that interests me, I was able to unhaul a lot of books that I bought during that like book binge of like coming back into reading. And right now it is August 2019, and according to Goodreads, I have read around a little over 130 something stuff. And I think it just like, especially since I now usually carry a physical book with me. I really like book sleeves, and so I sidebar. No, I like book sleeves, and I use them, and I carry physical books around sometimes. But also because like during my commute or when I'm doing chores, I listen to audiobooks, and I also keep I have my Kindle app on my phone, and so there's just books and stories with me all the time. So I am reading all the time, and I'm also like really back into like manga and graphic novels. I was never really into graphic novels. I'm into graphic novels, certain graphic novels now, but like I'm back into like manga. And yeah, because of that I've just been reading so much. So it's so crazy to think like that in 2018 my like completed amount is 135, but like in August of 2019, a little over halfway into the year, I read what I read in the end of 2018. Like craziness. But at the same time, like different people calculate different ways of what it is, what it means to finish a book, and whether you like calculate it the same way or not. I mean, that's up to you, but I just go by what Goodreads says, and I've been reading a lot. I mean, bringing it back. So I guess I want to like thank my dad for fostering my love for reading. And years later, I guess it was reading, book blogs, and booktube that brought me back into reading. And it's nice to know that like even though I don't like actively participate, it's nice to know that there's like this reading community out there, especially for someone like me whose friends um, in real life don't really read or don't read anymore. um, yeah, but I read. I mean, this channel is still directionless, but reading is like a really big part of my life. So there definitely will still be like book related content, but don't expect this to be a booktube channel. If you want to like drop by occasionally and see if I have any book related content posted, go ahead. And outro time. Like, comment, subscribe, and see you in my next video. Bye!